The fact that the Nazis and communists had similar visions of society was masked at the time by their virulent hatred of each other. In the 30s, the communists took care to present an acceptable face to the West. They disseminated images of mass togetherness, of healthy bodies and happy children.
Amid beautiful surroundings, the children spend the last days of their summer holidays with songs and games. The youngsters return to their homes in perfect health and fresh for their new school semester.
The Soviet Union appeared to tackle its industrial problems with great foresight and efficiency. Socialism promised a sharing society, a universal brotherhood that appealed to progressive Western intellectuals who were appalled by the mass unemployment of the 30s. Communism seemed to offer a clear solution to the apparent bleakness of capitalism. America was experiencing the discontents of the Great Depression. The new Roosevelt presidency responded.
I pledge myself to a new deal for the American people.
Even the USA was attempting centralized economic control. The New Deal established a range of governmental agencies to control production, fix prices, and pump money into public works. Britain, too, was deep in depression, and it was socialists who offered the answers. They were often intellectuals who, with little or no practical experience, liked to combine healthy exercise in affluent surroundings with idealistic politics. They dreamed of a rational economy in which the state would supply all needs. British socialists were a different breed from the totalitarians of the continent. They were convinced that people could be freed from poverty with no serious loss of democratic or civil liberties. The intellectual power of this movement came from the economist John Maynard Keynes.
There really seems to be some providence which watches over this country.
Keynes was not a socialist, but his theory that unemployment resulted from demand failure was ideally suited to socialist planning. He signaled to governments that they could straighten out the trade cycle, which symbolized the failure of capitalism. In this way, democratic socialism became acceptable because it allowed private enterprise to continue along with a high degree of personal freedom. It was the war that won the political argument. Planning was essential to the war effort. This is surely how governments should run a nation, rationally, with experts sitting around a table, agreeing what was needed.
TNT will be done in factories number 35 and 29.
May I raise the question at this stage whether additional labour will be required in the different areas?
Most certainly. We just have to have the manpower. But I'm quite sure that those workers who may have to be transferred will be most eager to cooperate when they know the purpose of this project.
There were dozens of regulations, rationing, zoning, cultivation. Good gracious me, there were so many.
Normal liberties were given up easily. This was a fair and ordered society in which everyone had to suffer the same privations. Surely these ideals could be applied in peacetime.
And when one job packs up, we don't want those who worked on it shot out on their necks and sort of fobbed off with the dole either. We want the next job ready for them. Housing is only part of the plan involving all kinds of production, exports. We've got to make goods to send abroad, up to a certain amount, no more, no less. Planned, in fact. Motor cars, why not? But it's all got to be done according to a plan.
Labour will now have a majority over all parties in a House of 640.
The Labour government set about creating a welfare program intended to be a model of democratic socialism. In the years after 1945, it had worldwide appeal.
And in the post-war, immediate post-war years, the consensus became set in concrete that the government had a large and dominant role to play, not merely in the welfare, the expanding welfare sector, but in the whole of the industry and trade and the control of capital movements and all the rest of it, so that you had a collectivist apparatus established for war that was very slightly and grudgingly relaxed in the post-war years.
A few voices were raised against this consensus, even in the 1940s, but they were writers and scholars, often continental refugees. They lacked power and influence. They expressed their opposition in books which, even today, capture the liberal hatred of tyranny. Perhaps the most important was the Austrian economist Friedrich Hayek. In 1944, he published a forceful polemic, The Road to Serfdom, which exposed the close connection between socialist ideas and totalitarianism. Hayek warned that even the milder forms of state intervention advocated by British socialists would inevitably lead towards a totalitarian end.